Today we have a session on using data analytical tools for bank audit and documentation by CAU Saran Kumar and CA Jawahar sir from Hyderabad. Both are from Hyderabad. Can I request our chairperson Divya madam to escort both the speakers onto the dais and then welcome them with floral bouquet.
Napa side good.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Members, I have privilege in introducing today's speakers, both Jawahar sir and Saran Kumar sir. CAB Jawahar is a practicing chartered accountant since 37 years and is a well-known faculty for many subjects. He is a BCom graduate in the chartered accountant and cost accountant and DISA from CA Institute and also CISA, CISM and CISSP. He is a certified forensic auditor by ICAI and he also holds degree in law. He is the author of Technical Guide for IS Audits published by ICAI and has presented various papers across India and even abroad also. He is frequent speaker at various seminars of ICAI, both even for SICA also. Jawahar sir has got certified as executive coach by world #1 leadership thinker Marshall Goldsmith. And he has been actively involved in with the India Red Cross Society, Roundtable India and Rotary International. He has been appointed as member of the Audit Committee of Rotary International for 2019 to 25 and is the vice chair of committee for stewardship of over USD 2 billion. With this brief introduction, I present before you CA Jawahar sir. I also would like to introduce Saran Kumar, then you can take it. CA Saran Kumar who is a qualified chartered accountant. He is into practice since 2010. He is a DISA holder and also FAF certified and concurrent audit certified. Having overall experience more than 13 years in handling data analytic tools like MS Excel, PowerPoint, Power Query, Power BI, IDEA, ETL tools, etc. He is the visiting faculty at many of business schools and universities, including Christ University Pune, TAPI Institute of Management, of course CA Institute and other CMA Institute also. Presently, he is the secretary of Hyderabad branch. Got elected to Hyderabad branch of SISF ICI for the term 2022-25. His series of sessions on Thursday for Technology on YouTube are very popular among CA and other finance fraternity. With this brief introduction, I present before you Saran Kumar. It's over to you, sir. You can handle, and then break can be given by power.
Small, what you call, initial starting inertia. This all happens to us, right? Even when we do any audit. So, without much ado, I normally talk about the planning approach and all, but I think given that we have a very important session of Saran Kumar with us, who is going to take us through the audit tools, analytical tools, which is pretty interesting. And I want you to give a lot of concentration to what he says. Not that you can relax when I am talking. But he's also pretty important because the reason is very simple. Because nowadays we are going to have to do an audit in the CBS environment. And as I will tell you, I'll do the initial slides very fast. And when I come to the documentation component, I will start taking a little more in detail. Okay. Okay. This used to be our approach earlier. You know, bank audit means having a good time. You go to various places, take a holiday, take your spouse along with you, and that is what the bankers want to. Any bankers here? Luckily. And even if there, I don't mind. Being a central statutory auditor, I don't have to bother about the branch managers. So anyway, I mean, the fact is that we all used to treat bank audit as a given. Now the things are changing. Responsibility has become too high. We used to take it as a holiday, go to the temples, visit them, and that's what the bankers wanted you to do, because they didn't want you to spend time auditing. And every time you go to the bank, I've been watching this in the last 38 years. Every time you go to the branch says, sir, your last time the auditor came, he was there for 2 days. Sir, you are taking too much time. This is a standard dialogue. And if you ask for more documentation, the next dialogue will be, sir, what an audit you are doing, sir. Last time nobody asked, sir. Nothing. They just want to put you onto a tree. That's all. So these things we know. So having known all this, be very careful. You have to do your job. How many of you are going to sign the balance sheet? You guys be careful. Because the onus is too high on chartered accountants, especially those signing the balance sheet. Others, of course, on the work component, you can't get away with it anymore. But you need to be very careful, so do that. We used to treat it as a quick buck, because fees was in those days about 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, now it is 7, 8, 9 in big cases. But 3 days, 4 days job, you get good amount of money. But not now. I'll tell you a few things. Bankers don't cooperate with your documentation. We find this because they don't want to give you the document. The moment they give you the document, then you'll ask further questions. So the best way to avoid is don't give the document. What's the solution? I want you to give every query in writing. Preferably send an email to the branch. Let it be recorded on the branch server, because none of the emails can be deleted in the branch. So let there be a record that you ask the query. It's a double-edged sword. The moment there is a record that you have asked the query, the next question by the Reserve Bank will be, in case you are picked up for review, the next question will be, how did you handle the query? But then that's an easy way of handling it. The difficult way is to get the data from the bankers. So put all your queries in writing. There will be a lot of resistance. They will say don't put things in writing because it will reflect on them. Don't worry, it is you who are more important. Then the question is, we get only 3 days or 4 days to do the audit, and I am a one-person firm. How can I do the audit? Gone are the days when this was the question. Now, you can have tools, which of course Saran will tell you. A part of it, he can't do everything totally, but he'll take you through a part of it, which will help you to do it. And you don't need any specialized audit tools. What you need is a simple Excel. Okay, and you can do your audit very, very easily. And I can tell you, the most important thing in analyzing through Excel is extracting data. If you are able to extract the data, working on it is phenomenal. I mean, you will be so engrossed in the data, it's unbelievable. You can do wonders. But then the fact is, earlier we used to say we will sample. Now those days are gone. What you have to do is you are given 100% of the data with you. So how you use your analysis to extract the data and come to your conclusion is with you. So you cannot say, I will do random sampling. Random sampling you have heard, no? We used to say, why did you pick up this particular file for your analysis, for your audit? And they'll say, random sampling, sir. What is the basis? Random sampling, sir. Random has no basis. But for your information, even there is method in madness. There is a method in random sampling. So please understand what you are trying to do and then take your audit forward. You have to take the entire data into consideration before you take up your audit. Then another thought process was, advances are critical. Rest of it is just no problem, we can sign. No, advances are critical. But the rest of it is the place where you can get caught, including contingent liabilities like LCs and PGs. That is an area where a lot of fraud happens. So be very careful. You have to go through the entire gamut of balance sheet. Then another thought was, balance sheet we have audited, sir, what is there in profit and loss account? At best there will be a little bit of income leakage, that's all. But income leakage is income leakage. Nowadays you will be questioned about what you have done, what procedures you have taken up for the P&L account items. So ensure that your audit plan covers everything. You need to plan because it is required by our standards. Then it's expectation of the auditors. Now people think that auditors, if you have audited, there is no fraud. You are certifying it. People don't realize that less than 1% of the entire fraud that has taken place in the entire world has been found by the auditors. Less than 1%. Rest of it has been either from whistleblowers or from other places. But as auditors, no. So be careful, but still because the expectation is there, you will be held responsible. Planning is important because it will help you assess and deploy your resources and help you in the systematic execution. It helps you where you are and gives the whole picture. I'm going very fast here because I want to spend a little more time later. And then of course all of you know about the SQCs, Standards on Quality Control. How many of you in here are have completed the SQC for your firms, for your offices? Standard on Quality Control. You know, we require those standards. Under the various heads, you need to have your policies and procedures for your firm. Have you done it? Please, when you go back today, take down, go to the ICI website, download the SQC document, and then form up your firm's quality and quality procedures, quality control procedures. Because that is going to be the basis of everything that happens in your audit. Because if by any chance you are asked by any monitoring agency, it starts from your SQC. Because that becomes the first document. They'll say, okay, fine, what are the procedures that you follow in your firm? And if you say we have no procedures, then you are caught, finished. So have the procedures in place, stick to the procedures and you're fine. So what is to be done? You have to obtain, to start with, obtain declaration of willful defaulter, indebtedness, fidelity and secrecy from all your partners. Very critical, because if they fall into this, then they will be disqualified, your firm might be disqualified. So you need to be careful. Submit all the declarations that is required to be submitted to the bank. Ensure that your firm policies and procedures, that's what I was talking about, the SQCs, it consists of leadership responsibilities, quality within your firm, ethical requirements, acceptance and continuance of clients, human resources, engagement, performance and monitoring. Then if the appointment letter does not contain the names and addresses of the previous auditors, you have to ask for them because you have to write to them. What do you have to write? What do you have to write to them?
Do you have any professional objection?
Objection. No objection. Okay. And keep that copy of it in your file. Then similarly, reply to the letters of the auditors. The previous auditors or the branch that you did last year might write. So please help them reply. Then draft an engagement letter. It is a requirement as per our standards, but I will also tell you later where you will find a format of it. Use that format, a beautiful format, well-researched format is there, and you will get it. It is available in the guidance note of Bank Audits 2023, which is available on the ICAI website. Send letter asking for information on the branch. There is a beautiful format on this too in the guidance note. So it's a huge document. You can download it, use it, fill it properly and send it to the branch, and ensure that the entire information is ready and available to you before you reach the branch. It should be given to you because you need to do some procedures on it in your office, otherwise you will be wasting time there. Travel itinerary you will have to do, compile the list of all the reports, read, every time you get your appointment letter, there is a closing circular also that you get, isn't it? So the closing circular will have a lot of things that you need to do. So read the entire closing circular verbatim. Keep a list of all the reports and certificates that you need to give. Otherwise, you will find that you might have to go to the branch again, or the branch where managers will come to your office and waste your time. And then they will say some reports have to be given to the regional office, some to the central office, some to the audit department, some to the central statutory auditors. So there are different numbers to go to different places. Ensure that you have those numbers in order. Now, whenever you are doing the audit, as soon as you ask for some document, as I already told you, it takes time. And then, one of the psychological things that all these people do is they will not give you the information till the last day. The day when you are in a hurry to go, at the last moment they will try to give. And therefore, you need to have a document in place which should clearly say what is the information asked for, whom have you asked for, what is the date, what is the time on which you have asked, when did you receive it, and who gave it to you. This is a document, a separate document that you need to maintain. And then you please tell the branch managers or the staff in charge that if you don't get the information asked for, you will give a disclaimer. Only then you will give it you'll get it in time. Otherwise, they will simply dump the entire information on you at one stroke and you will not be able to do anything, and there will be a phenomenal pressure on you to sign the balance sheets because the dates are expired. Okay? And then you have to keep your entire team abreast with the latest RBI circulars. Where do you get it? Where do you get it? The latest circulars? Sorry? RBI site. Very good. RBI site you will get anything and everything. But what is relevant for our audit you will get on ICAI site. Okay? There are appendixes. So if you go into the appendixes, you have the master circulars, list of master circulars, list of master directions and directions. There you have to download all these, keep it, go through it. The whole of this will be about something like 1800 to 2000 pages. So be prepared to burn the midnight oil to read all these things before you go for the bank audit. Now that these circulars are, you have your circulars, you download it onto your laptop and you have it, you don't need copies of it. Remember that the branch auditors are responsible not only to the central statutory auditors but to all the stakeholders, and therefore it is very critical. Remember that your audit might be picked up for review by Reserve Bank of India, and if that happens, your working papers will be called to question. That is the easier part. The difficult part is if your firm gets picked up by NFI for some fraud that has happened in the branch of which you have been the auditor. That's a difficult part. And there, remember, NFI doesn't even talk to you. They will simply ask for your file. And based on what you have documented is what they will decide whether you have done your audit or not. Simple. No questions will be asked. Your documents have to justify your work. And why do they do that? Why do they do that? Is it fair on their part to do it without asking you? When you go for audit, you ask for documents, right? And you get it. But when your file is being audited, you are not asked. You are not there. They don't even talk to you. Is it fair? Is it reasonable? Do you think so? Principles of natural justice? No? Isn't it? I'm fully with you. But unfortunately, we are stuck. Because our auditing standards say so. Auditing standards on documentation categorically says, SA 230 clearly says that your documentation must speak of every procedure you have done. And if you ask an NFRA and say, boss, this is against the principles of natural justice, they will say, why are you telling me go and talk to your institute? They are the people who have brought in the auditing standards. So all chartered accountants here? All members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India? You are all duty bound to follow the standards on auditing? Follow them. You don't have a choice. Okay? How many of you have read the standards on auditing in the last 6 months? Thank you. But please, for heaven's sake, go through it. Standards on auditing. Don't hesitate. It is not for me or for the institute or for the bank. It is for you yourself. Please go through it, and it is an eye-opener. It will help you a lot in this audit. Verification of various reports and the issues identified should be noted and documented. And not only this, you also have to document how you have handled it, what is the conclusions you have come to. So suppose you raise an issue about one particular advance, saying that the stock statements, the stock statements in the last 90 days is not available. Then the banker will come and say, sir, stock statement is available, sir. And he will come and show you a stock statement of 29th of March. Will you accept it? Why? It's within the last 90 days, given by the client, the loanee. Why will you not accept it? And he will say, sir, it's a very large company. Every year they give only on around 20th and 29th because they have such a large stock with them. And therefore they cannot do it as on 31st. They will do it a couple of days in advance, sir. So you say, okay, fine, available. And then you say, okay, DP available. What should be your response as an auditor? Now this is where your notings in your file come in. Number one, the moment anybody gives you a stock statement other than on the 31st of March, it is a red signal, danger signals. Immediately your skepticism should kick in. Then he will say, okay, last year show me the file. So last year also 28th of March. Immediately what you should do, they would have provided their audited balance sheet before within 6 months. Look into that. See if there is a variance. 99.99% there will be a variance between the stock statement and the balance sheet. And that is where you have to comment and say this is not acceptable. And how you have handled it, you have to write. Saying that I have seen the balance sheet of the last year, there was a variance. I have went back one more year, there was a variance. And therefore this year it is not fair to take the stock statement as on 29th of March into consideration, and therefore I will consider that no stock statement has been submitted, and therefore this is an NPA. Just because a stock statement is not submitted, can you make it an NPA? No? What is the rule? If a stock statement is not available for 90 days, that means there is no DP, drawing power. If there is no drawing power, overdue. Overdue means, okay? please understand, know your subject very well, and you can play with the bankers like mad. They'll start eating out of your hand. But if you don't know your subject, you will start eating out of their hand. So the best way is to, I tell you, I was telling Saran when we were coming in the car, the guidance note on bank audit is a Bible for all bank auditors. Please, please go through it. You will not get a better person to tell you than me. I keep telling this in every seminar that I speak about. Analytical procedures along with test checks will be useful tools to find misstatements. I will not dwell into it. Saran will take you through how to go about it. Now, document your audit plan, direction, supervision and review strategies. Why do we need to do all this? Sorry? Peer review, not for the auditor, only for the... Your focus is very clear. You need to document it. I just gave you the answer. Why? Why do you need to document this? I'm not going to give you negative marks. You can say. Standards say so. Thank you. You're very fast learners. This internal control of the bank I will not go through. You need a planning memorandum. Ensure that you have a planning memorandum in place which categorically contains all these things. Identify the characteristics of the engagement. What are the characteristics? Every branch is different. So ensure that you understand the branch, whether there is a forex there, whether they have LCs, VGs, whether there is import-exports allowed there. So different kinds of branches, agricultural branches, gold loan branches, corporate branches. So depending upon the branch, you will have to structure. What are naturally the reporting objectives? So is the internal financial controls or financial reporting applicable to bank audits?
Yes.
It's applicable.
Controls are applicable.
The reporting,
Yeah,
they will be applicable.
now it's applicable.
Now it's applicable. Very good. Thank you, sir. That's correct. Don't be afraid to answer.
No, you're not afraid.
If they are applicable, but you are lucky because now what RBI has said is the bank can pick up selected branches and ask the auditors to report on the internal financial controls over financial reporting. So if the branch that you are auditing has been picked up, then you will be asked by your central statutory auditor to give that report, otherwise it's not needed. Consider factors that are significant for directing that you will do. Preliminary engagement activities, okay, I will not nature timing extend. Develop an audit plan to include the nature timing. This is SA 315. I am not getting into the details of these because each of these is a standard which takes a whole 3-hour program. So I will not dwell deep into this. Okay, from here, for every area checked, please ensure that the documentation includes the name of the person who has checked and the extent of the check. So you have a working paper. What we normally do is, the paper itself we print it, name of the client, partner in charge, assistants who have done the work that then the heading will be the nature of work done, objective of the work. See, every time you do, please keep this in mind. Whenever you start an audit, please write the objective of that particular audit of that particular area. If you are saying audit, looking at a data where you have to answer a question in the LFAR regarding interest, so the objective will be that. Similarly, if there is a audit of say advances, there are so many things to be seen in advances, but while you are doing it, please write the objective of that particular item that you are looking at. And that objective will change for everything. Now, what are the objectives of the audit? One is the evidence that you will see. Okay? The evidence is something that is very critical for you as an auditor. What is the evidence you have seen, you will document. Okay? What are the characteristics of evidence? Relevance of a document, objectivity of the evidence, timeliness of the evidence, authoritativeness of the evidence, and directness of the evidence. These are the things that you should have in your mind when you are relying on some document. Okay? Now, what are the things that you will see for balance sheet items? What are the things that you will see for P&L items? Okay, when you do an audit of a balance sheet item, what is it that you look for?
Valuation.
And? Sorry? Valuation, existence, completeness. Sorry? Obligation, okay. Rights and obligations, as you call it, agreed. So, you are aware of this, right? Now, what do you look at when you look into the P&L areas? Sorry? Performance. Okay. And I don't agree with you on that. Performance. Completeness, yes. Disclosure, cut-off. Okay.
Provisions.
Sorry?
Provision.
Provisions is provision is balance sheet item. Okay, though it affects the P&L also. So, please understand that your objective should be this. Completeness. So say the objective of this, what I am going to do is to verify completeness. The objective of doing this is disclosure. And then you write down your procedures that you have done. So documentation of what you have done. Believe me, if you just look at the characteristics of the balance sheet items, if you just look at the characteristics of the P&L items and then take that as your query, your audit is done. That is the reason I am trying to take you through the characteristics of these. The basis of sample selection is critical. Materiality levels adopted is very critical. You have to, for every branch it is different. So you might be allotted 2 branches. So for both branches, materiality levels will be different. Work on your materiality levels and then start your audit. Now you know the CB that all the banks nowadays are on the CBS system, right? So there are only 3 types of softwares that are working. One is Pinnacle, other is banks, third is Flexcube. So whichever is the one that is working there, please document how you have understood it. If you really want to understand doing a bank audit around the computer, then I would strongly suggest you take the book of Ishwar Chandra, Chartered Accountant from Agra. Ishwar Chandra has written a beautiful book on bank audit and doing the bank audit around the computer. He has in fact given the details of all the reports that are generated and are useful for the audit. Oh, another thing is, in the March journal, March 2023 journal, he has written an article. That article itself gives a complete list of reports. Please read the March journal. But if you want to know what is to be written, how it's to be written, please go through his book. I don't know him, he is not my friend or dear friend, he doesn't give me royalty. Okay? But I am telling you, it's a good book. So, all the reports that you see, all the main points should be documented, jotted down, say, okay, fine, these are the issues that have been raised by various reports. Why is it important? Why is it important that you jot down? Evidence of having gone through the report. Okay, so one of my partners said, what is the use of wasting time? We'll just take copies of the report and file it. Is that sufficient? It shows that you have collected the reports. It doesn't show that you have worked on the reports. But if you go through the reports and note down on what are the critical areas, critical points that have been raised by those reports, it means that you have worked on it. Okay? And then the moment you work on it, you also have to write there how you have handled it in your report or coming to your own conclusions. External confirmation, please take a copy and put it in your file. All external confirmations. And the reconciliations, if any, also need to be taken in your file, and you have to also show that you have verified them. Just because you have taken a copy of the reconciliation and put in your file doesn't mean that you have verified them. Physical verification of cash, gold, security document, investments have to be clearly mentioned. This is a high risk area, and being banks, this is one of the reasons you are doing the audit is to ensure the safety of these items. So ensure that you properly verify them. I would suggest form your own checklists for each of these items. Go by the checklist and without batting an eyelid, make a comment if you have to make a comment. And ensure that the comment is reflected in your audit report as well. That is very critical. If there is a problem. If there is no problem, good for you. All the analytical procedures that you have done should be documented. Why you are doing the analytical procedures, what is the purpose of the analytical procedure must first be written, and then you document each step of the analytical procedures. I am sure Saran will take you through that. Each step of the analytical procedures should be documented very clearly. That will show you have applied your mind and you have not treated the bank audit as a holiday. Management representation is very important. We take it for all audits, even for bank audits. Please take the management representation. 99% of the time, the branch manager will not even read your management representation. They will simply put their signature and give it to you. And therefore, it becomes more important for you to draft your management representation in a proper manner. Please draft it, don't generalize things. If you need specific assertions from the branch, put it there. The branch managers might turn around and say, we do not have a system of giving written representations. Our head office has told us not to sign. Don't worry, sir. Don't waste your time. Just ask them to give it to you in writing. If they give it to you in writing, what will you do? If you put it in your documentation, it will not help you. LFR, what about the main report? If it is, there are critical items and they have not signed it and given it to you, what will you do? You have to give a disclaimer. Now, if you give a disclaimer without anything in writing, then you are caught. So, if you take that, put it in your representation, and if they don't sign the representation, clearly state that it has not been signed and therefore you are disclaiming, if it is so critical. You understand? But ensure that you have the documentation in place. If you don't have the documentation, it's a serious offense. I told you queries should be in writing and insist on written replies. Please document who has compared with the previous year's figures, previous financials, non-financial information, and who has verified them. All these should be documented by name. I already told you all the accounting and auditing standards issued by the institute and guidance notes issued by the institute are applicable. There are different audit approaches. One is department wise, head of account wise, or checklist wise. It's up to you. You can do anything, whichever you find is easy, you want to do, you can take it up. But document this. You say that we have got checklists for all the all the departments that you have, or the entire bank audit, therefore I will do it checklist wise. Or you will say that we would like to start our audit department wise. So we start with teller, we go to investments, we go to treasury, then we go to advances, portfolios, different departments, forex separately, and then cover the entire gamut, document everything as you do, as I have already told you. The main purpose of document is evidence of auditor's basis for a conclusion about the achievement of the overall objectives of the audit. Okay. Evidence that the audit was planned and performed according to essays and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. That we all know. It helps in assisting the engagement team to plan and perform the audit. Okay? And assist the engagement team responsible for supervision to direct and supervise the audit work and discharge the review responsibilities as per SA 220. What is this review responsibilities? Can someone just talk about it?
Other than the engagement partner will review the.
So there will be an engagement team. Just because you have delegated the work to someone doesn't mean that your job is done. So at the end of the day, it is up to you to review. You might choose to do it at the end of the day or before you sign. But preferably at the end of the day because it makes your job easier. So you ensure that you have reviewed the work, document the review. Reviewed on so and so at so and so time. Points raised on review. What are the instructions you have further given to the person who has done the audit? The team member. So very critical that you take this up. And the moment you put this in documents, they become accountable for their work. If you are not looking after the work, if you don't review their work, they might be doing their job, but they don't feel accountable. Like in all our offices, if our bosses, say, okay, fine, how far has it come? Have you hit any roadblock? Do you need any help? What are the special issues that have come across? Then you feel that, okay, fine, there is somebody who's, watching, and therefore I need to do my work properly. And the same thing is applicable here. And then, for future audits also, your record will be helpful. It might not be for the same branch, but your work that you have found out and the areas that you might cover might throw up some wonderful issues which you can use in the next audits. And favorite, peer review. It will help for peer review. SQCs will help for peer reviews. And external inspections and in accordance with the legal and regulatory and other requirements that I have dealt with. Okay, characteristics of evidence I spoke about: relevance, objectivity, timeliness, authoritativeness and directness. Ensure that your evidence covers all these. Form, content and extent of documentation. Okay, what does our standard say? It says the auditor shall prepare the audit documentation that is sufficient to enable an external experienced auditor having no previous connection with the audit to understand the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures, the results of the audit procedures performed and the audit evidence obtained. So when I said NFRA is doing it, how many of you have read any of the reports of NFRA? You didn't get a chance to do it? Go to NFRA website. There are many reports down there. I would want you to go through the report of ILFS. What they are doing and what NFRA is doing is not auditing an auditor. They are investigating an auditor. Unfortunately, they were brought into existence at the time when investigation was necessary. But now they feel that investigation is their job, not audit. So, I had an opportunity to talk to one very senior chartered accountant who is also an advisor to NFRA. And I had him tell NFRA that they are overstepping their boundaries. And he went and told them. We had a long discussion and then he said, Jawahar, yes, what you say is right. An audit is not a forensic audit, right? A normal statutory audit that we do is not a forensic audit. In a case of a forensic audit, the objective is different and the the focus is different, The areas of focus are clearly defined. Whereas, in case of a statutory audit, we do peripheral audit. And only in cases where your skepticism kicks in, you go deep into it. And your skepticism need not kick in if there is no evidence of fraud or a doubt. But in case of forensic audit, everything is suspicious. So the objective is different. And NFRA looks at auditors with suspicion. And therefore their objective has become different. Which is, in my personal opinion, not correct. The significant matters arising during the audit, the conclusions reached thereon, and the significant professional judgments made in reaching those conclusions should be documented. The example of the stock statement that I talked about, let us talk about that. It's a significant matter or not? It is? All agree? Okay. What was your conclusion? That we will not consider it as stock because of previous evidence that they were fudging with the stock statements. And they were using that loophole to avoid getting caught. Document that. What is the professional judgment you have come after having documented? You say these are the reasons why I now state that there is no DP. We cannot rely on this stock statement, therefore no DP. And because there is no DP, this has to be considered as NPA. Okay? All this need to be properly documented. Now you have done that. This is let us assume that this is an advance of say 400 or 500 crores. Okay. And you have used your professional judgment, properly documented that this is an NPA. What will happen? What will happen?
Bank manager won't agree.
Bank manager won't. Let him not agree. We don't care. Isn't it? Are we doing everything for him or for us? Bank manager won't agree. He will not sign. The MOC he will not sign. Okay. Then the next thing is the next morning when you go there, the regional manager, the general manager, everybody will come. And casually they will also tell you, sir, if this is the case, next year you will not get audit. I faced all this, so nothing new. You also faced? Not yet. They come and they will smile and tell you, sir, if this is the case, we will have to reconsider appointing your firm as auditor, sir. They'll tell you that. The pressure on you. Now, having documented all that, in the last moment, you say, okay, fine. I will not, so you say, okay, fine. They will also give you an advice. They all bank managers all have advices. Sir, why do you do all this? Put it in LFAR, no, sir. It is the same, that also is audit report. Put it in LFAR. So you agree to put it in LFAR. That account turns to be a fraudulent account. What is your fate? Think about it, okay? Don't fall into that trap. The document must show the identifying characteristics of the specific items or matters that have been tested. Are you guys by any chance getting jittery or a bit scared or nothing, no? Good. I'm happy. That means you'll do a good job. Who performed? I already talked about it. Who reviewed the work should also be documented. I have discussed with it. And significant matters discussion with the management. Achha, one point that I missed telling you is when you start the audit, you discuss with the bank people on various issues like what is the staff, who looks after what, What are the number of advances? What are the characteristics of the advantage? Typical problems in the branch. All these things you discuss, isn't it? Document it. That will be the initial meeting. You have to document that also. And that will help you in the planning of the audit. If there is inconsistent information with that of the conclusion, like for example, you have done the audit and you are doing very well, and then suddenly you come across a document which shows that you thought that this particular account was a standard account, but here is a case where there is you come across a letter or a newspaper cutting which says that some XYZ, the Pollution Control Board has put a case on them, demanding that the plant be closed. You have said that it is a standard audit, but here is evidence which shows that the plant might be closed. So you have to decide on how you will handle that and document that also. And decide whether you want to change the your conclusion, or you still want to stick with the conclusion and say this is not relevant because of additional information that you have got. Okay? Now, there might be a case where you might want to depart from the standards on auditing. Like for example, you don't get external confirmation in certain cases. So what have you to do? The standard itself says that you can do alternate procedures. So if you can't do some direct procedures and you want to do alternate procedures, you have to document that, saying that though the standard says that you have to do this external confirmations, I have not received external confirmations, but I have done alternate procedures which make me to conclude that everything is hunky-dory. Okay? Ghosh Jilani committee recommendations. How many of you have done audits before, bank audit before? You have done. Okay. So how do you handle this Ghosh and Jilani committee recommendations?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Yes, no, all right?
You don't handle, you fill.
No, it is nowadays 80% or 90% is filled only, not applicable. But few of them, yes, no, all right. Our institute, in one of the appendices, they have given an audit report that you have to give for this. There is a format given. Please give. The banker will say, sir, we don't want it. We just need your stamp and signature. There is a format of the report that you have to give. When you sign there, you clearly write as per our report on this committee recommendations of event date. And in your listing, you clearly refer to these annexures that you will attach.
Separate duty review report?
Sorry?
Separate duty
No,
review?
it's part of the audit. It's not a separate item, it's a part of the audit. It's part of the banking regulations audit only. For income tax audit, you have to generate a separate UDI, but not for this. Okay. So, be very, very clear about this Ghosh committee, and I would suggest, please make a checklist of this yourself. What are the items that you need to check for each item? Don't fall for the yes, no, all right. Because Ghosh and Jilani committee talk about internal control of the branch. And if you do yes, no, all right here, you will get stuck in your audit reports, especially if that branch is picked up for internal financial controls. So this will help you in filing that. Take a representation from the branch. Please, and wherever it is not possible to comment, please write unable to comment. Don't worry about it. This refers to guidance note 22, but there is a guidance in this. I didn't get the page. I'm sorry, I missed it. How do I get out? So in the guidance note, you will have this. Please give the report. Okay. on frauds. One of the reasons why you are doing the audit, because people believe that you as auditors will find out all frauds, especially in the branch that you are auditing. Smile here. Please read chapter 21 of the guidance note. Give your time, full concentration. Then they have given 42 early warning signals in that. If I were you, I would make it, convert it into an Excel sheet, all the 42 early warning signals, and for every account that you verify, write the name of the account and each signal wise check, put a check mark yes or no, whether it is applicable in that particular. So you will not miss out on any early warning signal for any account that you verify. That is the best way of handling this early warning signals. And it will help you also. Naturally, tomorrow if somebody says, have you checked this? You say, boss, please refer to my working note, it is there. I have verified this and it has not come into my notice. And while doing the audit, collect the appropriate documents. The final file should be assembled in a timely manner. What is the timeline given?
60 days.
60 days. But what will happen once you go out of the audit of the branch and you require some document? Will the branch manager give you?
No coffee.
Correct, sir. They will not even ask you for coffee. Forget about the document. Therefore, when you are there and before putting your signature, play all the drama that you want. Collect all the information you want, because once you step out, not even step out, once you put your signature, even if you are in the branch, they will not look at you. They might become very friendly and all, that's a different issue, but they will not give you any document. Once you have finalized, completed the final file, after collection of the document, but even after collection of the document, you get 60 days time to ensure that your final file is prepared. And once the final file is prepared, ensure that there are no deletions, alterations, nothing is done after that. Especially so if it is a soft copy. One of the ways of handling it is the moment you collect all the soft documents, put it in a folder, call it a master file. That will not be touched, whatever happens. It will be under lock and key. You make another copy and keep it with you, so that if there are queries, you will use that to answer. Why? Because if you open that document master file, the time stamp, the date stamp will change. And you will not be able to prove to the regulators that you had taken the document on that day, at the time of audit. Therefore, it is very critical that these documents, the master file should be kept in a separate folder and locked. Don't touch it. The copy should be open for you because you might have to answer questions. Peer reviewer might ask to see. That will happen 3 years later. And then that timestamp will come into that. So, working soft copy is okay. But the master copy, don't touch. Each audit paper must contain the name of the client, the period covered under audit, subject matter, file reference, initial of the member of the audit team, initial reviewer of working papers to agree with the books of account, audit summary memorandum. These are the things which will be there in every paper. Okay? And now I will give you the general guidelines for preparing the working papers. All your working papers must have clarity of understanding. Just for the sake of keeping a working papers, don't keep any paper. For every working paper you have, you must write down why you are taking that working paper. In one peer review, I had gone for a peer review of a firm. So I said, sir, can I see the audit documentation of this audit? Yes, sir. And then he brought me a huge file. I was thrilled. I said, first time I'm seeing a firm who's having such wonderful documentation. I opened it. It was ledger copies of all the tally entries. All ledgers. I said, what is this? He said, documentation, sir. What documentation? It proves that you have taken printout. It doesn't prove anything else. I said, no, sir, that is what is our documentation for us. So don't fall into that kind of a thing. Completeness and accuracy. Your document should be complete and accurate. Pertinent to the audit. If in that file, by mistake, you give it to your assistant and that fellow suddenly finds, last year you did Bank of Baroda branch, so those papers he found somewhere, he will put it in this Union Bank file. You are finished. So let the documents be pertinent. And once you say that my document is over, as a signing partner, it is your responsibility to see that everything in that file is in order or not. And having seen it, you sign off and say, I have verified on this day that the entire document is up to date. That will in fact, without opening the file itself, you will know that it has been seen and signed off by the signing partner. And of course, if once you sign it, then the review partner and the quality control partner would have done their job before that. Logical arrangement. Haphazardly don't file the papers. It should be logically arranged. You must have an index and tie up each with the working paper. If you have an index which says advances, let all the working papers relating to advances in order be available in that file. And along with the reference number or the page number. Clean, legible and neat. Ensure that you write properly in such a manner that if the document goes to a pharmacist, he will not give a tablet. Okay? If anybody is able to get a tablet out of your new working papers, that means it is not legible. Okay? So be clear about it. You are chartered accountants and not doctors. Ensure that it is safe. Safety of the documents is your responsibility. Initial and dated. And summary of conclusions also you need to have, so that why do you need summary of conclusions? Basis of your opinion. What are the contents of the audit file? Engagement letter, accounts, reports and final file, audit plan, balance sheet P&L, that is systems testing and all that, accounts preparation, the audit program, statistical information. All these should be in your audit file. Oh, this is not 22, I changed it, 23. As I told you, the engagement letter is given in Appendix 6. Okay, here I want to tell you that if you download the guidance note, it doesn't contain any appendices. All the appendices are separately given in the website. So you have to download the appendices separately. Then format of written representation is given in Appendix 7, and bank audit program itself is given in Appendix 9. So in case you do not have a bank audit program, you can use this standard one. At least you will be completing it in a proper manner. Okay? As you say, it is a ready-made thing. Spoon is there, feed yourself. Now I'll tell you some of the special considerations. Here I said, I already told you, reports are given in March 23, Chartered Accountant Journal. How many of you have read the journal? March 2023? You have read the journal? You have seen this issues? Please, for all those who have not done, it's not late. How, you get it, I suppose. All of you get it? The Chartered Accountant magazine? Okay, here in conclusion, in LFAR you have to do a lot, give a lot of information. You know why they are asking? Earlier days, when RBI asked a question, you know, when our inspectors went and this particular account, we found these things, it should have been an NPA, you have not classified as NPA. You know what our chartered accountant said? Sir, this was not picked up by us in our sample.
Might be.
Hmm?
Might be.
It might be. I also agree with you. I am always in support of chartered accountants. So, what RBI said, okay, good for you. Now, you tell me how many accounts you have selected as sample, which are the accounts, what is the outstanding at the end of the year, what is the fund base limit, what is the non-fund basis, what is the total outstandings of the branch, what is the outstandings that you have verified, and what is the percentage of your verification in comparison to the total outstanding. So now if RBI says this account should have been an NPA, what should be your answer?
This one.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
What will be your answer? Sorry, sir.
You can give the list. What are the ones?
They have the list, you need not give it.
We have our own list. How on what basis we have selected the sample.
Agreed.
As per our institute.
Agreed. But you will be giving the names, no? Names of you have to give an annexure of the names, not the numbers only. You have to give details. So you can now no longer escape. You have to clearly state. But please understand, it is your judgment. It is your professional judgment. And that is the reason I am saying your documentation is so critical. If you have come to a wrong conclusion, no problem, but document it. If your procedures are correct and your conclusion is as per your procedures, nobody can touch you. If you have classified an asset as a standard asset and RBI has classified as an NPA, and if your documentation proves that it is a standard asset, you are correct. Period. Okay? So be very clear about, that's why I am telling you the importance of documentation is this. It says account number, quick mortality accounts especially, you need to give the account number, name of the account, balance at the end of the year. System of obtaining stock reports. Stock audits done, stock audits not done, action on adverse features in the stock audit. CBS system actually has a report on this. There are two or three reports separately. You can get those reports and arrive at it. It's not a big deal, you don't have to dig deep into it. Falsification of accounts or false representation of borrowers. This is a great area of fraud. So be careful about it. Misappropriation of funds, especially through related parties. These are the two major areas how frauds are committed. And the third one is forgery and fabrication of financial statements. The other day, I was in Hyderabad, I was talking about this branch audit, and one Mr. Sharad, he was talking about the frauds. And he told me that in one day he got a call from the bank manager and said, "Sir, you give lectures in our banking institute that frauds are done this way, that way. You yourself have not been able to detect fraud. And you are signing balance sheets where assets are not equal to liabilities." So he said, "I can be a fool, but not that big a fool." Assets and liabilities are not tallying. So he said, "No, give me do you have this thing?" He said, "Yes, sir, I will show you." And then he told the name of the client. So the Sharad said, "Sir, I have resigned as an auditor of this fellow 6 years ago." "Sir, what are you talking, sir? Last year also balance sheet you signed." That means the client is using this fellow's signature, stamps, everything, and filing balance sheets. Then he had to file a police complaint and take it up on a different platform. So there might be cases like this, forgery. So be careful. And use of current accounts outside the consortium instead of the TRA accounts. has made it to divert funds. Very critical. Fake export bills, you know, read the fraud and all the early warning signals. All these will come out. Overstatement of invoices, stock statement, shipping bills, vendor-related issues, associate parties, and these are all very, very important. And if you sometimes you try to check.
How to track the fake export bills in the audit? Deliberately it's been designed.
Sorry?
How to trace it as a part of audit?
You have to do your procedures and see.
Practically it's very
See,
difficult.
practically it is difficult. But if you suppose you have got, say in that area it's a tobacco area, let us assume, there will be shipping bills. So if two different parties, shipping bills, normally the ships will be going at the same time. If you find a dichotomy between the two, one of them is fabricated or false. So that is where your business should kick in. But if there is only one shipping bill in the entire thing, very difficult for you. You can probably try to go into the website of the customs and see what are the things. So little bit of research, document that you have done this, you could not find it. It's okay. But at least from your side, some effort must be seen that you have tried to check out. Round tripping of funds, very, very easy way. In fact, the audit tools can help in finding out the round tripping of funds, especially with the related parties. So, I wish you all success on your audit and documentation. And thank you so much for giving a patient hearing. And Saran will take you through the analytical procedures. And if you have any question on the documentation at that time, and I will also be here, I will clarify your doubts without leaving this hall, without clarifying your doubt. And we will not be divulging any information which you can use and make money out of, but you can use that information for audit. Okay? So thank you so much, and I will now leave you to give your, let's invite Saran. I'll sit there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for the excellent session. And yeah, it's okay. In fact, let me thank the branch for giving me this opportunity. Generally, my PPTs will not have much slides actually. In fact, recently, if I'm not wrong, this is my 13th session in this season. As an habit, generally, if any branch asks me, sir, can you please share your PPT? I shared a PPT. He called me back, Sharon, it's only having 2 slides. Title slide and thank you slide. You are calling me for Excel session and what you can expect in the PPT more than that. No sir, at least our satisfaction for the printing purpose. Then I kept a couple of slides. In fact, after the a senior person in the bank audit, Jawahar session, let me restrict more towards analytics than talking about documentation, because many things what you have spoken, even I don't follow. I am still evaluating every year and progressing towards that. So that is at a very high level, and obviously that is more important, very much required. That is what the expectation these days from the regulator side and our own institute side. So in this PPT, very simple things I'll simply cover. This one slide I always feel, whenever branches call me for the bank audit seminar, I generally ask first, what you are expecting from me? What Sharan? Text to column, VLOOKUP function, some small if function. And I think this is the branch I am coming almost after 4 years, but remaining all branches almost every year the same phase. So they call me, I go and speak. Sir, I have spoken the same last year. Sharan, we know you are speaking the same thing for the last 6 years, but we don't have any expectation. See, last year when I have spoken about text to column, this year they should not ask me that. Sharan, wait, we all learned that. You talk something better. But people are not having expectation. Even I am also not going towards advanced. Because when I start talking advanced, people started asking what it is. My point is, this is the mindset of the auditors. Generally, February month end, fag end of the month, the audit fever starts. By the way, this session is not how to get the bank audit. This session is, if we get the bank audit, what we need to do. So the discussion starts on how to get the bank audit in the month of March. And anything with respect to bank audit, immediately we register from the branch, institute, webinars, whatever the material which goes into the WhatsApp, with the title called bank audit, we'll download it first. Opening it or not, God only knows. And download it and having a long press and forward to everyone, including the author who has made this document. And we'll keep the phone aside. Actually, some fellow forwarded to us that we should read it first, but we forward it first. Then, because at the month of March, we all having an objective that this year I want to do the best audit. Keeping that in the mind, they join into every group which is having a title called bank audit. And I'm sure at least you all might have joined at least in one group in last 1 month. Yes, right? Yes. So finally we go to the bank. I don't know what happened, though so many sessions, so much of topic, standards of auditing, Excel, seminars, webinars. Once we go to the branch, we will be under complete surveillance of branch manager and RO. Though we thought of doing anything, we do the audit same like last year. And finally the day comes, the signature. That day we realized that this year somehow I could not do best audit. At least let me do the audit best next year. I feel the cycle continues every year. Somewhere we should break this. In the sense, from both the sides. Next time, even if branch wanted to call any Excel fellow to talk about bank audit, you have to demand that basics we know now. Because last year we learned, we want something more advanced, more automatic and so on. That is the way the branch can grow, you can grow and we can grow. That means when the same thing is coming up every year, that means we are in this circle. Let us break somewhere the circle. In fact, this is what Jawahar sir was talking about, the planning. I like this quote in every assignment, especially the assignments where I deal with the numbers. If I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, first 4 hours I did spend sharpening the axe. Branch audit starts on the day once you got the allotment and appointment letter. Immediately you can start asking for the information. Of course, you have to do a couple of other activities, informing to the previous auditor and so on. I'm not going towards other procedural aspects. You can get the information, you can start doing the audit. People feel once we go to the bank, then 10:30 is over, then my branch audit starts. No. Planning is very important. Even Excel related assignments, whenever someone asks or whenever we want any Excel related formula, first we'll go to Excel, we'll put equal sign. Then we'll start thinking what to be, right? First understand what you want. What is an objective? From this data, what do you want to achieve? To achieve this objective, what are the tools which are required? Whether you know all the tools or not. If you don't know, go and learn. If you know it, just put it properly and execute it. I feel, especially the assignments which deal with the numbers, 80% is structure on the paper. You should be clear, know, to the point, the objective of the work what you are doing. Once you know it, it will not take more than 20 minutes, keeping everything into the Excel or other tool to get the final report. This is a very quick thing, I keep it, a CBS environment, although my session is not going in depth into the CBS. CBS environment is basically having three types of servers. Application server is the server. Basically, once you go to any bank, they ask you, let's say if you ask to open an account, one clerk will open his system and start keying the information. That is an application server. If you want to transfer the funds, you will go to the net banking, you will use the net banking service to transfer the fund. That's an application server. But whatever the data the branch clerk is keying, or whatever transactions you are doing, these transactions will go on and sit somewhere at the back end. That is what the database server. As an auditor, you will get limited access to the application server, no access to the database server, limited access to the reporting server. If you get an access to the database server, you need not to do the structured data conversion, data preparation and so on. Because data is there, I just need to take the data and use it. But you will not get the access to that. You will only get the access to the reporting server. And branch manager makes sure to give you a system which is having very low user controls, user access. Though in the March month journal, the author has given so many reports. Once you go into the live, many commands may not be workable. You thought, okay, author did not give correct. Author has given correct. But you must need to know whether that user control is having an access to download that report or not. That is very important. So reporting server is the place where all the reports they keep. Why there is a reporting server when database server is already there? Because everyone cannot consume the data from the database server. They design the reports for the management, for the RBI, for the auditor, for other regulator, and you need to go and take the reports from there. This is what the core banking solution versus the bank, Finacle, Banks 24, FlexiQ. Though different CBS are there for different banks, the information which you will be getting with respect to the advances is almost going to have the same fields. Maybe in SBI, you will be having two files called CCOD file and loan balance file. Maybe in the Union Bank of India, they give you directly the Excel file called A1, A4 report. Maybe in the other bank, you will be having a separate report for separate type of advances. But at the end of the day, whether you compile everything or maybe an isolated report, going to have the same columns. I'm not going, as I said, my session is not on much of the theory. But before me going into the tools, 4:15 will take the break. Because anyone is checking downside in the clock, they are upside. Okay, that's the reason I'm telling the time. So this is one circular and this is the other circular. First, let me show you this circular. I thought I wanted to show this after I have given my session at Vizag branch on 17th of this month. Generally my sessions are post lunch. I don't know what is the reason, every branch. Whenever they invite, first they tell, sir, your session is post lunch. I think that was the only branch who kept my session as a first session. And they invited DCM of SBI as a chief guest. Chief guest spoken for almost like 30 to 40 minutes. He is obviously the chief guest of SBI. So chief guest from SBI, he has spoken very well. He is telling like, don't worry about our bank, everything is proper. IRAC norms, everything is happening in the system automatically. And in the CBS, everything is integrated. And you will not even find anything you least bother about to check the system related. Come, verify the documents and go. Ours is one of the robust banks, 24, CBS and so on. I was also listening. And generally chief guest leaves once he address after the inaugural. But he's unfortunate, he sat there in the session. And my session was immediate next session. I was just waited for first 10 minutes, just going here and there before me taking into the content. Still he is not leaving. Then I decided he will not leave, let me go to the direct content. And then PPTs and everything directly I went to the data and I have shown him, sir, this is what your SBI data, last year data. I apply one analytical procedure. If that analytical procedure confirms that everything will happen in the system automatically, we agree with you. What analytical procedure we can apply? Any number of things we can do. I applied one analytical procedure stating that what is IRAC provision? If one customer, under one customer, if one account becomes NPA, all accounts should become NPA automatically. Who has to do that job? System, right? Not manual intervention. That can we do that type of analytics? Generally we don't. But questions are there in the LFR with respect to the IRAC. Is the system fully integrated and everything? Are you confirmed with the SMA 012 reports given by the branch and everything? For all those questions, by default answered by the chartered accountant, yes. Okay, if I have applied this procedure and we found one customer where one account is in NPA, the other account is not in NPA. He said, Saran, 100% this is not possible. I said, sir, because though I fabricated this data, you may not identify by seeing the screen what is the customer ID and so on. But after I can share the branch and everything, you can go and verify this happened. Okay, so of course, after 2-3 examples, he left. So my point I'm trying to tell, don't assume everything. If everything is super in the system, then why audit? They'll reduce the scope, they'll ask you to come, verify the documents, good. Okay, so then that point of time I've shown this document. They have released in the month of September 14, 2020, automation of IRAC, income recognition, asset classification and a provisioning process in bank. I'll make it very quick. We invite a reference to our circular so onshore dated August 4, 2011 in terms of which banks were advised inter alia to have appropriate IT system in place for identification of NPA and generation of related data returns for both regulatory as well as for the bank's own MIS requirement. They are guiding since 2011, but understand this fella. It is, however, observed that the process for NPA identification, income recognition and provisioning and generation of related returns in many banks are not yet fully automated. Banks are still found to be resorting to manual identification of NPA and also overriding the system generated asset classification by manual intervention in a routine manner. This I am not saying, the banker is not saying, this is saying by the RBI. RBI found in many banks still the IRAC is a manual intervention process. And they have also given a deadline. In order to ensure the completeness and integrity of the automated asset classification and provisioning calculation income recognition process, banks are advised to put in place or upgrade their systems to conform to the following guidelines latest by June 30th, 2021. That means at any cost, after June 30th, 2021, you should not have anything which is a manual intervention. As per your analytical procedure, if you are saying something SMA 2, but the system is capturing it as an SMA 1, that means the system is not proper. If you are identifying one account under one custody is an NPA, but other account is still in the SA, that means you cannot give a clean report for that. You have to qualify it. And because they have given this circular in the same month, there is a rationale of changing the LFR. If you look into the entire LFR, generally I have an habit of narrowing down the concept. Generally, if anyone asks me to teach Excel, I don't teach Excel because Excel doesn't, we don't do anything on Excel, right? Where we do? Sheets, is it? No. Rows? No. Columns? No. Where, whatever we do, where we do? Cell. Learning about a cell is learning about Excel. Yes, sir? So in the same way, if you want me to narrow down what we do in the bank audit, they are clearly mentioned in one single paragraph. I just divide my entire work with respect to the LFR in two parts. The overall objective of the branch audit should be simple, to have transaction testing and provide inputs to the central statutory auditors on the internal control. The entire audit of LFR related, you are going to do only two aspects. Transaction testing, give inputs to the central statutory auditors on the internal control. Fine. When Sir was mentioning about the sampling and so on, I thought I should cover practically. Now, for what accounts I should do the transaction testing? Let's say there are 1800 accounts I found in the branch where I am doing the audit. I have taken 200 samples. Am I need to do for all 200 samples the transaction detailing, transaction audit? No. They have given another paragraph to give the clarity. The threshold fixed for the different purposes for comments in the LFR will decide that above the threshold, the transaction detailing needs to be seen and commented upon. However, below the threshold, the system and process should be checked and commented upon. What they are saying, Saran, throughout the LFR, we have given many threshold limits. Above the threshold, do the transaction detailing. Below the threshold, check the system efficacy, internal controls, process and so on. Now when it comes to the threshold, I am not going into other things. Let me directly go into the advances, which is the major chunk of the LFR. The answers to the following questions may be based on auditor's examination of all large advances. For this purpose, large advances are those in respect of which outstanding amount is in excess of 10% of outstanding aggregate, meaning fund plus non-fund, or 10 crore, whichever is lower. Let's say the branch for which I am doing an audit is having an advance size of 80 crore. Now can you tell me what is the large advance? 8 crore. Because 80 crore into 10% or 10 crore, whichever is lower, is 8 crore. Let's say out of 1800 accounts, where I was mentioning, 4 accounts are above the threshold. Now what I need to do? For all the accounts above the threshold, the transaction audit are account specific details to be seen and commented upon. They have used the word called transaction detailing, transaction audit many times. Generally, transaction audit is the word you will find in under IBC. Under IBC, under section 4, under 4 sections we do the transaction audit. 1 to verify whether a transaction is a preferential transaction or not, undervalue transaction or not, extortion transaction or not, then fraudulent transaction or not. These all 4 sections we call it as a transaction audit. Actually that's a transaction audit, but people call it as a forensic audit. Meaning you should take each and every transaction, check whether this transaction is an undervalue transaction or a preferential transaction and so on. The meaning of transaction audit the LFR is expecting is, when above the threshold is there, you should see from the start of the transaction till 31st March 2023 what happened. That means for that particular transaction you must need to have a control. Let's say from the other side, regulator side. Regulator like RBI may suddenly call you after 3 years, stating that Mr. Saran, you have done the audit for this branch for so and so year. Unfortunately, one account became an NPA and also the fraud triggered in the same year. Why you are not reported in your LFR or anywhere? Then as usual, as Sir mentioned, we have immediately a bulletproof. What is that? Sir, I am a statutory branch auditor. I work based on the sampling, but not 100% test. Then he is also clever. Obviously, when they are sending a notice to the other person, they do their homework. Then immediately he say, Mr. Saran, I do know the concept, but this is a large advance. Can you escape out of it? You cannot. Because when LFR itself is mentioning above the threshold, you have to do the transaction testing. Then how you can escape it? That is very important to work here. Let's go into the other situation. Now, out of 1800 accounts, another account he picked up and called me. Sharon, one account became fraud. Then I asked him, sir, give me some time, let me check whether it's a large advance or not. Let's say this time it's not a large advance. Then can you escape from the truth that it's not part of my sample? You can. But immediately his follow-up question should be, explain me how you have taken the sample. So the methodology which we need to adopt is, out of 1800 accounts, if you decided that you have to do the audit of 200 accounts, for 200 accounts, you need not to do the transaction detailing, transaction audit, not required. Because what the LFR is expecting the objective, transaction testing for above threshold, for below threshold, system efficacy on which you need to give a comment and give the inputs to the central statutory auditor. Now my methodology is, I divide my entire bank audit activities into, let's say, some 10 subsections. For the time being, let's say 4. Pre-sanction document verification, post-sanction document verification, account statement verification, any other LFR question related analysis and other analysis. There are 5 parts are there. Now I can take 200 samples. Then out of 200 samples, maybe 40 samples, I only check the pre-sanction document verification. And I'll take another bunch of 40 samples, I'll only do the post-sanction document verification. Another bunch of 40 accounts, I'll only check the account statement related. But this is fine. But this, you need to have a document and explain to the regulator. Regulator may ask you the question. That may not be a large advance, but you miss at that point. You can tell him, sure, that is correct, sir. I have not verified that. Let's say that account became fraud because there is a lot of fund diversion with other companies. Fund diversion, when I can identify, when I can see the account statement analysis. But for that particular sample, though it is part of my sample, but I have chosen to verify only the pre-sanction documentation. Every document is available that I have taken a proper sample and I divided my entire work into 4 different parts. Unfortunately, this is not part of account statement analysis, but this is part of pre-sanction document verification. Though regulator initially may not agree, but when you can explain him like a story, show with your system, reports and everything, he may definitely appreciate. It's about how you explain. It is about how you show to him. It is about, as Sir mentioned, even the time stamp is very important. Once you are done with the audit, don't touch those files at all. Because at many places, time stamp acts as a very important evidence, as a last resort. Just as an example to show you, my files, though I keep it separately, however, these all are the second copy, but still, I never ever erase the time stamp. You go to my bank audits, last 8 years I maintain in the same format, same folders. Even if any article joined this year, if I ask information 8 years back, still he or she can go to that particular folder, pick up the right information and so on. Check it out here. The time stamp is last year April. I didn't touch. Go to the base files. The time stamp is 8th April 2022. This can rescue when really situation comes. Okay, we will continue at least with 5 to 6 different analytical procedures and how we can identify small items like SMA, how we can identify quick mortality accounts, how we can check it out in case of interest related and so on post break. Okay, we'll disperse for the break for 5 minutes, sir. Yeah. 5 minutes, then we'll assemble. 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes, then we'll assemble back. Because Excel is such a topic, even if they give me 15 ads, it is very difficult to cover. So let's come back quickly so that we can use the time.
That was combination of experience of almost 4 decades by Jawahar sir, and then almost 1.5 decade by Saran Kumar sir. Using data analytical tools and documentation, Jugalbandi, I can say. That ends the 3rd day of this bank branch as a workshop by discussing actually what is to be kept as document or audit evidence, because it is required as per standards on auditing for our own benefit. Whether or not RBI guys ask later or peer reviewer checks that in future, but for our satisfaction of doing bank audit more diligently.
Sir, just one point. Yes. Yeah, as Sarah was mentioning, it's not about creating so many sheets and so on. You have to have an index. Each sheet is what, and you should have a document. Probably I could not show you. I also prepare one folder called closing, like what Sarah is mentioning, what are the important things. Because maybe this year you are doing a bank audit, you know what are the accounts and everything. After 5 years you forget. Okay, that's the reason. Sheet name is very important. Make sure that you have an index. That's part of your planning. If you decided that 20 analytical procedures you are doing, first, this is first one, this is second one, and so on. That's all.
Thank you Jawahar sir and Saran Kumar sir for taking the time out, coming all the way from Hyderabad on deliberation on the subjects in your busy schedule, and that only comes by experience and then passion towards subject. Thank you so much sir. On behalf of members present here and Managing Committee of Bangalore Branch and Chairman of Bangalore Branch, we thank you, both of you. Can I request now CA Falguna sir to come on to dais and then hand over the mementos to speaker.
No, sir.
Thank you so much, Falguna sir, and thank you Saran Kumar sir and Jawahar sir. With that, we come to end of 3rd day of 3 days workshop on bank branch audit. Thank you one and all here. Keep supporting us. Happy bank branch audit, and I'm sure you might be getting appointment letter by end of today or tomorrow. That is Manjunath M. Hallu, Secretary of Bangalore Bank, signing off for the day. Thank you.